The human rights situation in the country continues to deteriorate there. We look back at how some media outlets have covered the story or not. More than half a year ago, a former CNN journalist, Amber Lyon, made a documentary about the situation there. It was aired domestically in the US on CNN, but never made it to the bigger channel, CNN International, raising claims then that the management pulled the plug on the story. Let's get some thoughts about it from the lady who made it herself, the documentary author. Amber, very pleased to have you on the programme. Thanks for being with us. You feel that your documentary should have been aired...
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's OK. You feel your documentary should have been aired internationally. Why is that?
Well, just because at first I've created a lot of documentaries for CNN that didn't air internationally, but this documentary, all of the content was filmed overseas in this region. It was an international documentary, and mostly I feel like it should have aired internationally because seasoned, decades-long employees at CNN had approached me after it wasn't aired and told me this should have been aired on CNN International, and told me that they felt that something strange was going on and that I should investigate it. And that's where it was uncovered that we felt that this documentary was censored because Bahrain was actually a paying customer for CNN. Bahrain is paying CNN to create content that shows Bahrain in a favorable light, even though CNN says this content, you know, is editorially independent. It doesn't see, Bahrain can't affect that. Well, we've seen that with this documentary not airing, and also with the constant struggle I had at CNN to get Bahrain coverage, accurate Bahrain coverage of the human rights abuses on air while I was there.
Well, for its part, CNN says it has given Bahrain a lot of coverage, but you feel then that on this occasion that CNN has let itself down. It's a company that, of course, prides itself as a bastion of excellent journalism and impartiality. You feel it let its guard down in this case, yeah?
Not only in this case, but in many cases, because what CNN is doing is they're essentially creating what some people have termed infomercials for dictators. And that's this sponsored content that they're airing on CNN International that's actually being paid for by regimes and governments. I mean, this violates every principle of journalistic ethics because we're supposed to be watchdogs on these governments. We're not supposed to allow them to be paying customers as journalists. And that's the issue here, is that CNN is feeding then this propaganda to the public and not fairly and disclosing to the public that this is sponsored content. So, you know, for example, CNN has been doing these programs for Georgia, Kazakhstan, also, as we said, Bahrain. One of the programs that they aired for Bahrain was called Bahrain I-List, and they had a CNN reporter, Richard Quest, live from Bahrain for one full week. Talking about, you know, he was live at the racetrack at one point. There were mentions on this page about pearl diving and all the happy sides of Bahrain. But hard to find were the actual accusations from the majority of Bahrain's people that this regime needs to get out and that this regime is abusing and torturing doctors and journalists. That content was hard to find. Also difficult to find was accurate, simple disclosures on CNN's site and on this video, telling viewers that this video you're watching on this news channel, the most trusted name in news, is being paid for by this regime.
Now, Amber, you no longer work for the company, I gather. Do you think the controversy about this documentary that didn't make it to air internationally had anything to do with that or not?
I don't know. I was forced out of CNN because they got rid of our investigative and documentary unit and disbanded it in April. So myself and the majority of my colleagues had to leave. So I don't know if that was the case, but I do know that when I did leave, I was given a severance. And when I first started tweeting about the censorship of the Bahrain documentary, because I started noticing that CNN wasn't continuing to cover the story, I was told if I continued to talk that my health insurance and my severance would be pulled. So I felt like that intimidation level told me me that something was going on there. But whether I know if this Bahrain or my relentless desire to cover the Bahrain stories were why they disbanded our unit, I don't know. That's a gray area. But what... Yes?
This whole tale you've got to tell us is important. We've only got a minute or so. The more important overarching thing, I guess, is the situation in Bahrain. You've seen it there firsthand. You've witnessed it. When you filmed this documentary, I understand you came across yourself some heavy-handed tactics by the authorities, allegedly. Just tell us a bit more about that. What actually happened?
Yeah, we were able to sneak into some of the villages. We were able to kind of dodge our minders and sneak into some of the villages and actually see these atrocities, patients who'd run out of the hospitals, that were shot up with birdshot, ambulance drivers who were beaten. And as we were heading back out of these villages, we were violently detained by security forces in Bahrain, about 20 masked men with machine guns, who then tried to erase all the video that they found. And luckily, my female producer and I were able to hide some discs in our bras, and we were able to actually get out of the country with this content. So you can imagine Bahrain's surprise when we got back to the U.S. and this content was airing on CNN. And right after that is when the phone calls started coming into the network complaining about me and trying to get my coverage off the air.
Amber, thanks ever so much. I appreciate your time there. We wish you all the very best. Thanks for being on the programme. Amber Lyon, journalist and author of I Revolution documentary for us.
Thank you so much.